Welcome to What CEOs Talk About. Do you wonder what CEOs talk about behind closed doors? How they bring their vision to reality? How do they overcome and succeed through adversity? We share that and so much more with each episode. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, everybody. My name is Martin Hunter. I am the host of What CEOs Talk About, where we translate vision into frontline operations. The shout out for this episode goes to Greg Moser, who introduced Kevin and I, and that we're going to talk about the beach. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things. Kevin, thank you very much for being on the show. That was hard to say.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Kevin, now we struggled in the pre-show. Kevin and I were trying to kind of put this together, and it's going to be a good one. So Kevin, what is the title of this episode?
Yeah, so we came up with the title, Picking Your Next Wave, which we thought was very applicable to what we're going to talk about here.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kevin, for the sake of the audience, we like the guest to really kind of describe who they are. Can you go back in time? Where are you born? Where are you raised? And kind of tell us the Kevin story to where you are now, because it gives the listeners and the watchers the opportunity to really sink in and attach the story that you're going to tell with a bit of context and history.
Of course, yeah. So I was actually born in the Washington, D.C. area. So, I don't tell many people this, but I was born 3 hours from the nearest beach. Definitely not a lot of oceans in D.C., but the shores of Maryland and Delaware actually do have oceans, and they get some waves every now and then. So yeah, grew up in DC. I fell in love with surfing at the age of 9, so that's when I caught the surf bug, and that's something that's resonated with me the rest of my life and kind of led me to where I am today. My dad was very entrepreneurial. He had 2 businesses, and growing up from a young age, I worked at one of his businesses. So kind of, started, I guess, soaking up the entrepreneurial spirit from an early age. But, naturally becoming, falling in love with surfing, I started looking to the West Coast to where I would go for my next move. So I think when I was around 12 years old, I took my first trip to California and decided, all right, once I graduate high school, I'm heading west. And that's what I did. I ended up going to University of Southern California for college. So I lived in LA for a while, and then I migrated to a town called Manhattan Beach, where I started this company, and then headed further south, where I now live in San Diego. And before that, I did a little stint out in Hawaii as well. So been able to go to some great areas, and entrepreneurship's been a pivotal part of my journey since a very early age when I started my first company.
Why surfing? What from surfing hooked you so much at the young age of 9?
It's a good question. Some people catch the surf bug and some don't. When I think for me, it was with my family, we would spend our summers down in Florida, where my grandparents lived. And from, I think, age 2, I would see these surfers out in the water. There was a good surf spot out front of where my grandparents lived. So I was, from a very, very early age, I would see these surfers, and I was always mesmerized by the ocean and by them. And I started, boogie boarding, and, eventually decided, like, okay, I want to get off my stomach and stand up. So I took a surf lesson, and just, I caught the bug. And like I said, some people do and some people don't. But since then, I was hooked. And, for me, it's being around the ocean, and the lifestyle is, it's very calming. It's, escape from the hustle and bustle of life, but it's also, it's active and it's healthy, which is a really important part of my lifestyle. And the people in the community are great. Everyone is happy, and they're, they have, they spread good vibes. And that's something that was important to me. When I'm around it, allows me to be creative. It also kind of allows me to focus more by giving me a way to detach from, the hustle and bustle of everyday life and business. And that's something that was instrumental in the mission of our business, was that being able to spread those good vibes and kind of connect people with those lifestyles that, whether it be surfing or something else, those lifestyles that allow them to, detach from their everyday life and just allow them to enjoy the little moments.
So I like the word detach. For us non-surfers, you look at people that like surfing, enjoy surfing, live by surfing. I'll use your word, architect their lives around surfing.
Mm-hmm.
So you said detach, but what is the one word that pushes people to detach themselves to go surfing? What is so addictive in surfing?
It would just be the feeling, that feeling that you get when you're just either out in the water, especially when you're riding a wave. But it's, when we're out of our element, we're in Mother Nature's element, and
Mhm.
humans aren't necessarily number one there. So it's a different feeling being out in the ocean, and whether you're, especially obviously riding waves, but everything from paddling, from floating around, from seeing dolphins and fish and birds, and just soaking up the sunshine. The vitamin D obviously is very good for you. So the one word around would be the feeling.
It's funny because I grew up on the East Coast as well. So I was born and
Mm-hmm.
raised in Nova Scotia, and I grew up
Okay.
on a fishing charter, right? So on a trawler, you trawl for fish, and for me, ocean means a lot of work. I love the ocean. I'm attached to it. I love to be around it. I push my kids to do as much stuff in the water, but I associate, for me, ocean means enjoyment but hard work and labor, right? Is where when you go out and you work kind of like a farmer, you see the results of your hard work by bringing in a good catch, good days or bad
Mm-hmm.
days. So I can associate that, having spent a lot of time in the South Pacific as well. I've
Mm.
taken the time to go snorkeling, and I was in the military, did combat diving, so I know how to dive. But it's funny how I've never been able to mimic. And I know plenty of surfers, but I don't necessarily have that same. Oh, the wave is there. I gotta drop everything that I'm doing to go catch the wave at 5:06 because the tide's gonna be perfect. It's just the. I think I want to bring it to the title because it seems that everything revolves around that one moment that I've not. It's hard for you to explain, and it's hard for us to pinpoint. But anyway, so let's get back to the title of the show. Why did we pick the title of the show, and what does it mean for you and for the listeners?
Yeah, so for picking your next wave, and you kind of touched upon this, it might not even be surfing for everybody. It's that next moment, that next opportunity, and there's lots of them out there that come our way every day, every year, and it's being selective and understanding what you want and picking that right wave or that right opportunity, and if you're an entrepreneur, turning that into a business that fuels your life, but also your passion, and that's why I chose that. So I think it is, outside of just surfing, picking that
Yeah,
next wave
yeah.
is applicable to everybody.
And so you use the word architecting or architecting, yeah, the verb above that I borrowed from you. So why that? Why is it? What triggered that thought process? When I ask you, hey, what do you want to talk about? Why is it so fresh in your mind?
Yeah, it's just when I go back to think about my entrepreneurial journey, it's been filled with multiple evolutions, lots of ups and downs, just like everybody's. Entrepreneurship is a
Hmm.
roller coaster indeed. And for me, I'd gone through a number of challenges, and I had to decide what my next wave was going to be. Was I still going to be an entrepreneur, or was I going to go a different
Mm.
route? And I selected my next wave, which is building my current business, Beachly Brands, and I did it around a passion of mine, and I chose the right wave. It's something that's really been a great journey over the last 7 years now. So that's kind of where that, I guess, it comes to mind. It's part of my journey.
So what pushed phase two? So you had a different company, a different organization before. What pushed you into thinking about the next move?
Yeah, so I started my first company in college. I've been a serial entrepreneur, and
Hmm.
yeah, I've never really worked at a job for anybody else besides some consulting jobs here and there. And I hit a tough streak in my mid 20s where I had a venture I was part of, crumble due to a co-founder of the company that was, doing some, I guess, who was very dishonest and really,
Mm.
hurt and ruined that venture. And I went on to start another one, and I had some luck come my way. Was able to raise a good seed round for that company, and really, get off to a great start. Thought I was back on track, and some things just didn't go our way and didn't pan out. Obviously, we made some mistakes, and that company, after a few years, ended up going under. So just two opportunities that I thought were really going to pan out, both failed, and it was just a really tough experience to have that happen back to back. And I had to take a step back, and that's when I was deciding, was I going to continue being an entrepreneur and start a new venture again, or was I, going to try my hand at something else? And I decided, let's build a business, or let's look for businesses that I can build around my passions and other people's passions. And, at the very least, it's going to take me in a direction, that I love, that I'm excited about. And I would get to work with people that share the same values as myself. And I
Hmm.
decided to give it another shot, and came up for the idea for this business. So essentially that was the wave I ended up taking, and that's what has put me on the journey from where we are today.
So when you say architecting, it's not just about building something around your passion. What were some other criterias that were critical for you? I don't know if you have a partner, if you have kids, you have a dog, a cat, a rat. Like what was? I'm sure that you're a multifaceted individual. I'm sure that there's plenty of other things that you took in consideration. What were some of them, and what were kind of the pass fails as you were kind of architecting this lifestyle business?
Sure. For me, it was really about people. Life is short, and working with people that you enjoy to be around, and as I mentioned earlier, that share the same values as you, is really
Mm-hmm.
important, and it makes entrepreneurship a lot more enjoyable. And in a previous venture, I was in a market that just wasn't, really. I didn't share the values of a lot of the people that we were dealing with, both as a
Mm.
company and outside of our company with potential clients. It's more entertainment industry, and there are just things in that industry that didn't really align well with me, and who I am and who I wanted to be. So people, is extremely important. And that's, I started this company. I have a co-founder from Hawaii named Mark Healy. He's a professional big wave surfer. So it's, a great person to align with, someone I look up to with many, parts of his life, and someone, someone that I can learn from, and has a completely different skill set as I do.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, just the clients we work with, the brand, the brands, our members, everyone's just, we share a lot of the values, and that makes it a lot more enjoyable, when you're going to be putting in the level of work that you need to do. So, people was a huge driver. And then the next one was lifestyle, being able to build a business. For me, location was big, so in an
Okay.
area that resonates with the brand that we've built
Mm-hmm.
and are continuing to build, and also allows me to live, a lifestyle that is more conducive to the hard work I'm putting in. And there's little things like proximity to the office. My house is 1 mile from the office, and the office and the house are less than 1 mile to the beach. So it allows me to work hard, but be able to still participate in the activities that I love.
There's so many things to unpack. We've captured this in a couple of, but we've never put a full episodes on values, right? So knowing what you know now in your first or second, when you first met with the guy or the girl, the partner that kind of was not necessarily honest, and you think about it now, you go, knowing what I know now, I would have been a lot more diligent. And I think there's too many entrepreneurs that forget that because they're quick starts, right? Entrepreneur, the
Hmm.
French word entreprendre is to take on, right? And we're so
Hmm.
quick at taking on that we forget that there's certain qualifiers. And that's the one thing that when we're talking to business people that are in the second mode, right? So we deal with a lot of organizations that have reached a level of success and they don't know, and this is very true for them, they don't know what to do to catch the next wave. And some of them just go, hey, like, I want to do this, I want to do that. There's so many criterias before you jump into the next journey. What I like, what Kevin is saying, he's like, okay, well, I've screwed up once, I've screwed up twice. I got kind of, I don't want to say screwed up, but, you know, you got sidewinded on two of them. What could I have done better? And before, the term architect, I think, is critical because you don't want to have a system failure. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me kind of situation where you say, okay, I'm not going to go through this again. So I'm really going to put the values first. I'm going to associate with people that are truly, truly transformational for me. And that's the key word that I want to leave the listeners with is too many times we're transactional. We look at the market, we look at the sales, we look at this, we look at that. That's great business-wise. But ultimately, you know, if you want to align with the partner for a transformational, the value flow will be so authentic from your product or service to your customers that there's no Kevin at work and Kevin at home and Kevin at the beach. It's just Kevin, right? And I think that is critical to that architecting that business because I'm kind of in the same place. We do this, like I said, frequently with other people. Like, where do you stand is key component to positioning yourself for future.
Yeah, 100% agree, you know, and it's tough, you know, at a young, especially entrepreneurs when you're very green. There's a lot of articles out there. Everyone's talking about this person sold their company for $1 billion or $100 million or whatever it is. And they don't talk about, you know, the trials and tribulations that person went through to get there. And, you know, it's easy. I guess it's when you're younger, it's really easy to get wrapped up in, like, as you mentioned, transactional focus on how do I get the biggest exit, raise the most capital. And you don't really necessarily think about building, you know, you're not focused on building the right product that aligns with yourself as well. The product doesn't have to align with you perfectly, but more so, is it something that you're ready to, you know, put in all your blood, sweat, and tears to? And is it something that you truly believe? And that's where I think when you believe in it, you'll get that authenticity, which bleeds through to, you know, to your members or your customers and comes through in your marketing. And especially when building, you know, if you're focusing on B2C, authenticity is extremely important to build brand.
Oh, yes. And even B2B. I mean, I've been in, you know, I mean, how many times have we had investors that go, what's the ROI? Blah. You know, okay, what do you invest in? Like, what do you truly and honestly believe in? You know, I don't eat sushi anymore, right? Tuna, I grew up fishing and my parents lost their revenue because the cod population got depleted. And so now I'm not going to participate. So I don't have poke unless it's, you know, caught by somebody that I know of personally who wants to share with me. Don't get me wrong. Do I love fish? Absolutely. But will I consume, you know, harvested fish or tuna? That's not part of who I am. So therefore will not associate with anything of that nature, right? There's one thing that I want to talk about that brought up that I think is kind of associated with this. Too many times, as John Jones out of Texas I was talking to, too many times we, as entrepreneurs, the first person that pays in your journey is your partner. And then if you have a family, then your family pay up. What I think is what Kevin is doing, and regardless if you have family or not, it's the balance. I grew up in the 70s and I barely saw my parents. They worked their asses off. And so, you know, that's a place where architecting your life is to say, do I want to wait until I retire to be able to spend time with the people that I love, regardless of where you fit in life, and even if it's just with yourself. And then the second component is really, be mindful when you're architecting your business or what you want to do, that there's ebbs and flows. It's not always perfect, as Kevin demonstrated. I'm sure that you said sweat and tears. I'm sure that after your second journey, you're like, oh shit, I think I need to get a job. I don't think this is for me. Inside of you, I'm sure it was burning, but at one time, like, I'm sure two hands on your desk, hands in your face in your hands, and going, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah, definitely many a times. And I kind of learned, or a phrase I always learned to tell myself was just trust the process. Because as you mentioned, the ebbs and flows, and that's exactly what it is. And that's why I mentioned, all the magazines or articles about the people selling their companies for these massive exits, not talking about the ebbs and flows along the way. And I think it's really important to trust the process, and that your journey is probably not going to go the way that exactly as you have it planned. But you learn and you pivot and you evolve, and you kind of trust the process and keep going, you get to the point of, you get to where you're meant to be. Like, I think, getting knocked on my butt a few times in my early and mid 20s have made me a much stronger and resilient entrepreneur today. And it makes it almost easy to handle the stresses that come along with entrepreneurship, especially over the last 2 years, because what I've been, what I've had gone through in the past, makes it you're a lot more calm, cool, and collective when you're dealing with high stress situations, just when you've been through it and when you've survived it and come out the other side stronger.
It's funny how you say trust the process. Pretty much every entrepreneur that I've interviewed, they always say trust the process, but the first one's to break the process most times. And it's it's so true. It's so true. They're like, okay, let's do this. And I was like, okay, hold on. And it's funny because when you're providing advice for somebody else, from entrepreneur to entrepreneur, you go trust the process. But when you're in it, it's so hard to see. As much as you believe in it, you're so focused. And I mean, that's why we're in business, right? That's what we tell the guys and the men and women who get to a point where, I don't know if my kid's going to take my business or not. I'm not attractive enough for some large strategic buyers. What do I do? Hey, listen, you're going to be part of a roll up. You're going to be part of a collaborative approach. You're going to have to relinquish some of the control, but trust the process. You'll get your company sold to, and then they say, well, I don't know what I want to do next. And I go, talk to Kevin, go to the beach, spend some time on the surfboard for a little bit. That'll get you focused. I want to bring it back to a lot of people now. There's a recession coming along. If not now, a lot of people are saying.
Yeah.
You said that you were really, when you did your financing or your rounds, it was quite easy. Talk to us about the process. Why was it easy? What did you do well? What were kind of were the stars aligned? Kind of talk, because a lot of people are kind of always asking me, hey, how is it now compared to what it was before? So how did your journey for fundraising go? And tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, fundraising's never easy. It definitely hasn't been wasn't for this company. I took a different approach. I self-funded the launch of this company. So
okay.
I had mentioned I had a previous company that, had went under, and we had raised a seed round, and, the feeling of losing other people's money is, you hate losing in general and competitive. So I hate losing a business, and then hate, losing my money, but also, losing other people's money. So what I decided was, when I start my next venture, I was like, I'm going to fund it until I'm confident that we have some product market fit, because the other company had more done a traditional seed round where it was a little while ago. So you were able to raise capital kind of on a business plan without really any traction. Yeah. So I wanted to get traction first, which is actually nowadays, to really do a seed round, you do need traction. Yeah. The seed round is closer to a Series A, compared to what it was, in the mid, about 10, 15 years ago. So, but what I had bought a condo back in 2009 during the Great Recession, and it just so happened that I got an offer I wasn't living there, I was renting it out. I got an offer to sell it back around, this was 2015. I was already working on the idea for this business. Mm-hmm. So I took that offer, I sold it, and I took the majority of my profits And, the timing was kind of divine. I was like, hey, I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually was working on this business. I've got, a great partner out of Hawaii to help launch the brand. And, I just got some money. So let's put it in. So I put in the first capital to launch, test, and get some traction. Then our first outside capital came from one of our early subscribers. So that was really
Oh.
cool. And he's actually our largest investor to date. So he's an angel investor out of Utah. Very supportive and great, and it's very cool that and validating that the first capital came from came from one of our members. And then we went through an accelerator program on Oahu called Blue Startup. So they
Mm-hmm.
put in a little bit of capital, and while I was out there, I focused on building relationships with a number of angel investors. So following that, I raised additional capital from the Hawaii Angels, and then had a couple of other people put in, some angel investors contribute since then. So we've actually been able to build the company, and we've only raised $500,000 for equity financing, and then we've been working with a group out of Seattle called Lighter Capital, who does debt revenue-based financing. So
Mm-hmm.
we've been working with them to give us the growth capital, and we've been able to scale the company, kind of utilizing those two methods. So getting that nice initial base, focusing on unit economics, and then using, like I said, using the debt for growth. We are getting ready to raise some additional capital. So going into this market will be extremely interesting. But I think if you're patient and you have a good business, there are deals to be made. But valuation expectations are where I think is what's going to be the big factor for a lot of people. So in SaaS, they were getting 100x ARR multiples not too long,
Oh yeah.
just last year. Consumer, we never really got those, so I think my valuation expectations are a little bit more in line. But that being said, this right now it'll be interesting to see. I think on the valuation, everyone's going to take a hit if you're raising capital right now or in the near future.
I a steady horse is a good horse. A steady horse is a horse that finishes the race
Yep.
consistently,
Yep.
and that is something that I tell when we were working. So we sometimes will take accelerators, sometimes we'll go with mentorship process, and they'll come up to us and they'll say, "Hey, listen, Martin, we've got 90-day run rate, cash flow protection." I said, okay, build that up to at least, double that, put it to 6 months. Well, hold on a second, but that's going to be too long. And then our exit, I was like, whoa, 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 hold your horses. First of all, are you ready? Are you ready to catch that big wave? No, you're not. You don't have the skills. You don't have the capacity. You don't have the knowledge. You don't have a good board. I'm using surfer analogies to the
I
best
like
of my
it.
abilities,
You're
but
doing pretty
shoot
good.
me down.
No, you're doing
Right?
well.
You didn't use the proper wax, right? So you've not got the right fit. The board needs to be a little bit lighter, a little bit heavier. And so hold on a second. Before you do anything with your company, if your company is not healthy, like anything, you want to go walk up on a big adventure, if you're not capable to withstand at least 6 months of independent work for traction, nobody's going to invest in you. Nobody cares anymore. Unless you demonstrate good traction with good economics, you don't have to go big. There's so many young entrepreneurs that want that big lifestyle right off the bat. Oh, Kevin, I want to be like Kevin. I want to live by the beach. Hold on a sec. Kevin went through some pretty hard ass things before he got to be there. So don't think it magically appears just because you thought about it. There's a lot of hard work that goes into it, even in raising funds.
Definitely. And I think there's been a big shift right now, which is going to be more focused on, you said, as building a healthy business. And to be honest, it's goes back to, picking your next wave, if you're raising
Yeah.
capital, as in who's going to be the right partner. So if someone, thinks that, like, for example, we pulled back on our growth targets this year, still, targeting healthy growth, comparatively for
Yeah.
most businesses, but not from what we've seen for the few years. Because I said, hey, I'm going to sit back. I need to see what the heck is going to be happening with the economy and the world that we're living in right now. So we're still going to grow, but we're going to make it very obtainable, and we're going to focus on people and processes and unit economics. And when I go to raise capital, if an investor doesn't understand that, if they ding me because we didn't grow 100% this year in this economy, they're not the right partner for us. And
Yeah.
it's hard, it's hard to, I find myself going back and forth on that because, I was having some conversations in 2021, 2020, late 2020, and, we had, we grew probably 70% that year. And a VC I was talking to said, "Hey, your growth seems a little slow last year." I said, "What are you talking about?" I was like, we have a good amount of revenue. So also once you have some real revenue continuing at that, 300% growth rate, it becomes a lot harder, but also a lot riskier when you're bootstrapping it, when you have to pay for inventory. And they said, well, everyone in
Oh yeah.
ecom crushed it last year. And I'm like, we did too. And we were profitable. And he wanted to ding me because we didn't grow fast enough. And I was like, that guy is not the right
Yeah.
partner. We didn't understand that, hey, we saw supply chain issues come in and we have to purchase inventory 9 months out. And then I said, hey, if I place big bets in supply chain, supply chain hits happen, which they did, it would have put us out of business. So that's, if someone can't understand or appreciate someone being a smart entrepreneur to run their business and not just purely focus on growth at all costs, they might not be the right partner, especially in an economy like this. It's, it's different at different times when money's being shot out like out of the fire hose at everybody, but that's not the case now. So it's
I don't think it's ever going to get back there. In all
probably
honesty,
not.
I don't think it's going to. I feel that the world has got a better mindset on a better prosperous mindset. And what I mean by that is you cannot sustain explosive growth continuously. When you make $1, you make $2. You make $2, you make $4. It gets to a certain point where the millions to sustain that, the investment, the risk is way too high. Like you mentioned, right? You say, okay, well, if I invest this, it's going to bust it out in the start of how many guys do I know, multimillionaires, that have gone close to bankruptcy because they were so overexerted. They had all the money tied up in everything, no cash flow projection. One guy, he had, numerous properties. There's like, okay, so you're not allowed to collect rent for the next 6 months. And these were like big scale apartments in New York and Miami. And so you're like, okay, big guy, I drive a very simple car and I put money away. And so the term prosperity for me, as long as you're wealthy, for me is as long as you're making more money that you're spending. I'm going to do a shout out to Vessi Shoes. The boys, the two gentlemen that are running Vessi Shoes, are doing it in a way where they're profitable at first purchase, which is
amazing.
Huge.
Yeah, very hard to do, especially nowadays.
In clothing, right? So
yeah.
they've done such a good job of doing that. And I'm sitting around a table of 40 under 40s, and a lot of SaaS are out there, and they're like, well, yeah, but they're talking about Series A and Series Bs. I mean, what's your operational excellence mindset? How profitable are you? Where's your target to profitability? Once you're profitable, then you're prosperous. When you've got prosperity model, then you can start growing effectively because now you have money to spend. It's a lot hard to, like you mentioned, I feel more people should think like you, Kevin. I like, hey, I don't want to lose somebody else's money, right? That maybe it's a generational issue. I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe people haven't lost other people's money yet. Once you do, and it's it's probably one thing's a little different when you're losing probably institutional where they model it out versus an angel. But that being said, still, everyone as an entrepreneur, we're competitive, so we all hate to lose in general, and it just it doesn't feel good to lose anyone else's money.
Yeah. So as you see the future of your business, what's the one thing that I feel you're solid from the conversation where you've got a good growth, you've got good footsteps, you've got a good plan? What's the one thing that you feel is the pros and what you're worried about in the near future?
Yeah, well, the worries, I'll start there because those are easy right now with everything going on. The big one is obviously the economy and what's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen there and how that's going to affect consumer purchase behavior. But even more so for us, it's, I mean, the way the marketing landscape is changing so quickly is that, your customer acquisition, obviously with the iOS 14 rollouts and then just more and more changes, coming down the pipe. Customer acquisition cost is, changes, quarterly or monthly right now with
Mm-hmm.
every time an algorithm's tweaked or, every time there's a privacy update. So, that's a big one. It's just you have to heavily adapt on that end and simultaneously, adapting with supply chain too. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, on both ends. Usually you're dealing with one at a time. You're dealing with, oh, there's some supply chain kinks we need to flesh out, or, oh, here's a couple things going on with related to marketing and customer acquisition that we need to focus on. But right now it's focusing on both of those. And at the same time, you need to focus on product and retention because obviously with inflation and the economy, you're really fighting for wallet share. So you want to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that when you're subscription driven, when someone's up for a renewal, that you're giving them the best service and product possible so that they can't bear to think about canceling that membership. So it's just you have to be on top of your game from in all areas right now. So that's but so that's those are a few things that keep me up at night. But we're up for the challenge, and if this was easy, everybody would do it. And I think the good companies are going to make it out stronger, and there'll be opportunities for M&A coming out of this. So there's going to be some interesting, but I think exciting times ahead. Pros of the business, I think, for us, we're at a good size, but we're not too big where we can kind of
Mm-hmm.
pivot and adjust the business to match the market conditions fairly quickly. So that's a good strength of ours right now. And just being able to, we are value driven, which is, it's one of our core value props. So going again, it's a nice story to tell about the savings people are, our members are getting when they're working with us. So, it's, and of course, just for me, just being able to be aligned and help connect people with the beach life and other outdoor passions and lifestyles.
I'm gonna finish off here technical jargon because I can talk about hours and hours. Knowing your break even. So Kevin mentioned cost. The acquisition. So if you know your break even, then you can just punch in your inflation or whatever key metrics. But really understanding the fundamental, where is the break even line for your product currently, and having some variables punch into that so that you're always ready. And too few people understand the true value of understanding your break even. I think that is an understatement in, well, I think inflation is going to be 8%, and I think this, and I think that, and then all of a sudden you've got this spiral of doom that you go, oh shit, 1% made a big difference over here. Absolutely. And what I like about Kevin is that as much as highly entrepreneurial as he seems to be, he's got the heart and mind of an operator. So
Mm-hmm.
he's on top of the numbers. He's always flexing. He's always saying, "Okay, I got to weigh." And you're not all rosy, which I absolutely love. There's so many people that are too rosy and don't have a good operational excellence mindset. So let's talk about few final questions. What's the next step after this? If you're going to orchestrate and architect catching the next wave, what's the next wave for you, Kevin?
Yeah, so I mean, with Beachly, we're still riding this wave. It's got a long way to go,
Yeah,
so that's kind of
yeah,
the
yeah.
focus. The company, right now we're getting ready to raise a little bit of growth capital, and we're going to look to acquire some brands, kind of
Oh,
over the next
nice.
2 years that we can plug into through to our distribution model, and then looking at expansion into Australia and the UK as well,
Oh, nice.
and then expanding to other, beyond the beach life to other complementary outdoor verticals. So for us, it's, still riding this wave, but expanding it out a lot further. post that. We'll see. Family. I've got a baby on the way due in January, so we're really excited about that.
Oh,
And so that's going to be a big change in my life. So obviously, going to continue to architect the business, to match that lifestyle, which is very helpful to be, have the house and the office all within 1 mile of each other. But it's a goal for me to be present in both, for family and for the business, and have that healthy work-life balance. And then beyond that, we'll see what happens. There's going to be a lot of opportunities, and it'll be all about picking the right wave that we'll take next.
it's funny because one of our partners, he's younger, Kevin, who's my COO, he has 3 kids and I have 4 kids, and Dylan just got 1 kid, and we went out for beers the other day, and he's like, "How do you guys do it?" I'm like, "What?" Like, will I ever sleep again? I'm like, we start laughing. He's like, no.
No, it's done.
You know why you do a dad nap in the afternoon? That's the reason why you do a daddy nap in the afternoon, my friend. He's like, holy shit. And he was always, mornings, he liked to be creative in the morning. And then we kept saying, you'll see, it'll change. He said, no. I'm going to be steadfast in my beliefs of getting my stuff done early in the morning. And now he's sending emails at 5 a.m. in the morning. I was like, well, told you.
Yeah, you're like, good luck with that, buddy. That's not happening. Yeah, so I'm trying to get mentally prepared for all of that, but I'm sure it'll be tricky, but great.
The key to success, I think, for a lot of people who I feel are looking to catch the next wave, and one of the comments that I always leave with some of the owners that have had executive assistants in their life, don't be afraid to invest in your life. Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid to invest the same way that you hire people to build your business. Hire people to orchestrate your life as well. That was one of the biggest things that I learned about 15 years back. Is I was coaching rugby, traveling the world, doing all this stuff, and I couldn't keep up with all, and my friends were being, I want to say, let down, because I was trying to, and as soon as I got a good EA, we went through a few of them, but when I had a good EA that I paid some decent money to help me run my life, my wave, it was money so well invested. And we cut one trip down a year, travel-wise, to pay for that person. And the flexibility, the peace that I've got, the employment opportunity that it creates for that person as well. Because at first I was like, I'm not hoity-toity. I'm a blue-collar guy, come from the East Coast. There's no way that I'm getting executive assistant. Who do you think you are, Martin Hunter, to think that you're boss enough to have an EA? And shit almighty, man. I love it, and that's what I recommend to anybody who is looking to catch the new wave, looking to leave, looking to do something different. Invest in somebody to help you plan that. A coach is always helpful as well. So, and a good EA, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. Think your EA could, if I got an EA, can he or she double as a night nurse for the kid?
You know what, Kevin has a nanny that does both.
I'm on to something.
So he has a nanny that you're on to something. She does the nanny, and she plans the family vacations and stuff like that. So I'm not far away, my friend.
Right.
Not far away.
I might have to try that out.
Damn, there's a business idea right there.
Yep.
There's a business idea. You're an EA and a nanny at the same time. Shit. Okay, let's put that on the not to do list. What is I asked all my guests, what is the one reference, the book, the saying, the movie that you always refer back to? Something that has touched you for a long time or in the near, that you go, wow, this book I rely on because it's saved me many times or it's changed my life. Book, movie, whatever you feel is the right thing. So a coach.
Yeah, let's see. My favorite book, you're kind of related to business and entrepreneurship, is The Hard Things About the Hard Things. And what I like about it is it's very real, and it gives it gives real circumstances, uh, about the decisions you have to make as a CEO and an entrepreneur when running your
Mm.
business. And it's not all about the rosy ones. It's actually most focused about the more challenging ones. And a lot of the books out there are more meant to be motivating, or when they're ones you learn from are very, high level. So that's, that's one I highly recommend. One of my favorite books. And then as far as my quote, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs refer to, the man in the arena quote is always one that I have hanging in
Mm.
my office at home. So I kind of check that one in the morning on the way out, and just kind of the one part of just kind of reminding myself, like, you're choosing like courage over comfort, every day, and it's better to have given it your all than not have done it at all.
Yeah. The salutation for me, sun salutation, ode to the dawn. Every day is a vision of hope and a memory of happiness is something that I tell myself every day as well. I like to get up with the sun,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so many things that it's funny because I came across all these books of late, and I always tell the people that I work with, wax on, wax off. I grew up with the Karate Kid, right? And they're like, "Did you take that from Chop Wood, Carry Water?" I was like, "What? That's a book." I was like, "Chop wood, carry water." That sounds like wax on, wax off. it is
Yeah, right.
actually
It
it
does
is actually a book, and it's based on the similar kind of mindset of do every single day. If you want to really architect your life and catch the next wave, well, you got to have the feet in your water. You got to be on the board. You got to be in the ocean. You have to be in the mindset. You have to be calm. You have to know that everything on the beach is going. There's so many things attached to that for me, if you're not in a cool kind of mindset, you can't understand and can't really relate to being able to really pick that one that's gonna make you feel 100% alive, right?
Yeah, love it. Very well said. You sure you haven't surfed
Look at
before?
that,
You're
full
doing pretty
circle.
well with.
Never, dude. I am 5'8" when I wear boots, and it's easier to go, over me than around me. I'm 250 pounds, rock solid rugby player for most of my life. So, on the board, the board just goes submarine.
Well, if you come to San Diego, we'll get you a big, big longboard. I'll take you out.
With the right coaches, I'm sure with the right coaches, I'd be able to do it. Well, Kevin, thank you very much for being on the show today, my friend.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me. It was a fun conversation.
Fabulous. With that being said, my name is Martin Hunter. I'm the host of What CEOs Talk About, where we translate strategy into frontline operations. Please like, subscribe, click the notification bell to know when the next episode is coming out. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in to What CEOs Talk About. Make sure to click subscribe to get notified about future episodes, or check us out at www.whatceostalkabout.com.